Our HOA president, Karen Worthington, was the type of woman who'd fine you for breathing too loudly on a Sunday morning. Her hair was in a permanent bun of judgment. Her clipboard weighed more than a toddler, and she had a vendetta against everything fun, including my brand new cherry red Dodge Challenger parked neatly in my closed garage. She hated it. Why? Because I didn't ask for prior written approval from the HOA board before purchasing a non-approved vehicle type. Mind you, the bylaws say absolutely nothing about vehicle type restrictions. Karen just made that up. So when she noticed I'd gone out of town for the weekend, she must have thought she'd found her chance. What she didn't know was that Grandma was house sitting. Now, my grandma isn't your average sweet tea sippin', rocking chair grandma. No, she's 76 years old, fluent in sarcasm, once beat a man with his own cane for calling her sweetheart, and served in the Marines. Twice. She also adores my Challenger. Calls it the pretty red beast. Saturday evening, around 9:45 p.m., while Grandma was sipping Earl Grey and watching Murder, she wrote, the motion detector lights outside the garage flicked on. Karen, dressed in black like she was infiltrating the CIA, had hopped the fence and was tiptoeing across my driveway like an arthritic ninja. Grandma didn't panic. She stood up, grabbed her baseball bat named Mabel, and muttered, well, 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 if it isn't the local raccoon in pearls. Karen, meanwhile, jimmied open the side garage door. How she even knew it was unlocked is a mystery. She slipped inside, flashlight between her teeth, probably humming her own theme music. She stood in front of my car, looking at it like Gollum did the One Ring. Then brace yourself, she pulled out a Slim Jim. This woman had tools. She came prepared to steal a car she didn't own, from a garage she broke into, in a house she didn't live in. Just as she slid it down the driver's side window, Grandma hit the garage opener. The huge metal door rolled up with a clank, flooding the garage with light from the street. Karen spun around like a raccoon caught mid-trash heist, her eyes wide and glittering. There stood Grandma, in her slippers, silk robe, and gray curls, wielding Mabel like she was stepping up to home plate at Yankee Stadium. What do we have here? Grandma said, squinting at Karen. A thief? Or just a confused possum? Karen froze. Then, as if her body caught up to her brain, she screamed. I'm the HOA president. This is a legal confiscation. Grandma just chuckled. Baby, the only thing you're legally doing is embarrassing yourself. Step away from the beast. Karen didn't. Mistake number 47. Because the next thing she knew, Grandma clicked her tongue and the security cameras she'd installed that morning lit up with little green lights. Grandma said, smile. You're about to go viral. Karen stood there frozen, hands still awkwardly gripping the Slim Jim, as if sheer denial could erase the fact that she was caught red-handed, red-faced, and red in the wrist soon. Security cameras? She hissed. Oh yes, honey, Grandma said, stepping into the garage like she owned the set of a courtroom drama. There's one in the birdhouse, one in the light fixture, and one right behind you in the air vent. I call that one Karen vision. Karen whipped around. Sure enough, a little blinking green light stared right at her. She spun back, lips twitching. This is a setup, she screeched. You're setting me up? I was conducting an inspection, an emergency compliance inspection. Grandma smirked, leaned against the Challenger like it was a witness on the stand. So the flashlight and car theft tools were part of that inspection kit, huh? Karen opened her mouth, but the words tangled somewhere between, I'm important, and I've made a huge mistake. Her eyes darted to the side door, calculating if she could make a run for it. Don't bother, Grandma said. Motion detectors at the gate, and I called the sheriff 5 minutes ago. Karen blinked. You. What? I've seen enough Lifetime movies to know how this goes, Grandma said. You break in, try to sue me for assault, maybe even blame me for scratches on your shins. Nah. I called the law the moment I saw you slinking across the lawn like a soggy ferret. Karen was vibrating with rage. You dare call the sheriff on me? I'm the HOA president. And I'm the queen of not caring, Grandma replied. Now sit down before your bun pops off from stress. Karen tried one last act of desperation. She marched toward Grandma, jabbing her finger like she was conducting an invisible orchestra of entitlement. You are harboring an unregistered muscle car in a closed garage. That is a level 4 HOA violation, and I will be issuing a bonk. Mabel the Bat tapped the ground, not hard, but enough to send a message. The kind of message written in all caps and bat emojis. Karen stopped mid-sentence. That's not a threat, Grandma said calmly. But the next time you swing that finger like it's a sword, you better hope it can block. From down the street, flashing red and blue lights painted the sidewalks. Karen's eyes went wide again. Oh no. No, 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 this is unbelievable. You can't arrest an HOA official. Grandma chuckled as the patrol car rolled to a stop. Tell it to the judge, sweetheart. But careful, he plays poker with me on Thursdays. Deputy Ramirez stepped out, took one look at Karen holding a Slim Jim next to a half-open muscle car in someone else's garage. Inside like this wasn't even the weirdest thing he'd seen this week. Karen, he said, squinting. Didn't I just cite you last month for harassing the ice cream truck driver? That man didn't have a permit. Ramirez pinched the bridge of his nose. Grandma crossed her arms. She broke in. Tried to steal the car. Threatened me with HOA nonsense. Karen tried to speak again, but Ramirez just held up a hand. Karen, turn around. What? No. Turn around. Grandma whispered to herself. Oh, this is better than Matlock. And just like that, Karen Worthington, the HOA Queen of Doom, was being walked to the squad car, handcuffed, and sputtering about bylaws and technicalities. Ramirez looked over at Grandma. You sure you're okay? Oh, sugar, I haven't had this much fun in years. You want a cookie? I made snickerdoodles. The squad car pulled away with Karen still yelling something about illegal cinnamon use and constitutional HOA authority, which based on the deputy's chuckle was not a recognized legal defense. Grandma, however, was unbothered. She calmly walked back into the house, placed Mabel the Bat back on her honorary wall hook, and poured herself another cup of Earl Grey. Deputy Ramirez stayed behind to file the official report, which Grandma narrated like she was reading bedtime stories to a criminal justice class. He ended up staying for a snickerdoodle and a second cup of coffee. Even officers can't resist baked goods from a woman who once single-handedly flipped a flipped ATV back onto its wheels in 1992. You know, Ramirez said, licking cinnamon sugar off his fingers. She's probably going to try to sue. People like Karen don't go down easy. Grandma smirked. Oh, let her try? I've got security footage, audio, timestamps, and a war chest of sass. Plus, I already texted the neighborhood watch group. Half the street's having a celebrate Karen's downfall barbecue on Sunday. He raised an eyebrow. You serious? Absolutely. Potluck style. I'm bringing pecan pie and the slow-motion garage cam clip. Meanwhile, back at the HOA headquarters, which was really just Karen's over-decorated home office with gold foil motivational quotes and laminated neighborhood maps, her inner circle was panicking. Linda, the treasurer, whispered to Margaret, the secretary, "Did you hear? She got arrested." Margaret gasped so hard she choked on her green tea. She broke into someone's garage, Linda added. With tools. Like actual criminal tools. She said it was a strategic compliance mission, but girl, she had a ski mask and gloves. What kind of compliance needs that? As word spread, more residents started coming forward about Karen's questionable enforcement methods. Fines that had no paper trail. bylaws nobody had ever voted on. One neighbor swore Karen once tried to repo a kid's lemonade stand for commercial activity on HOA grounds. That was the last straw. By Monday morning, Grandma had printed out the screenshots from the camera footage and handed them to a few of the nicer neighbors. That's when something magical happened. The neighborhood revolted. A petition started making rounds to remove Karen as HOA president. By lunchtime, it had over 60 signatures and 3 doodles of Karen behind bars wearing pearls and an orange jumpsuit. One neighbor, Dave from Lot 17, offered to power wash the sidewalk where Karen had stepped with evil intentions. Grandma, never one to let drama go to waste, handed out mini muffins to everyone who signed. Then, the real cherry on top? A local news reporter showed up. Apparently, someone had submitted the garage footage to Channel 6 under the title, HOA President Breaks into Steel Car Stop by 76-year-old Marine Grandma. It went viral overnight. Grandma was interviewed standing proudly in front of the garage, holding Mabel like a royal scepter. "I just did what any grandmother would do," she said sweetly. "Except maybe with a bit more enthusiasm." The morning after the Channel 6 story aired, Karen woke up in her holding cell with a migraine, mascara on her pillow, and a temper hotter than a jalapeno in July. "I want my lawyer," she shouted, but the officer at the desk didn't even look up from his Sudoku. Her bail was posted by herself, of course, and within hours, she was stomping back into the neighborhood like a disgraced empress trying to reclaim her throne. Hair a mess, pearls slightly askew, and rage glowing from her pores. And waiting on her lawn? A life-size cardboard cutout of Grandma holding Mabel the bat, with a sign that read, "Neighborhood Defender since 1952. Karen shrieked so loud a squirrel fell off her fence. She ripped the cutout in half and stormed into her house, only to find her inbox flooded with angry emails, petition screenshots, and a very official-looking notice from the HOA board titled, "Emergency Motion to Remove HOA President, for Costs." But Karen wasn't done. No, she decided it was time for legal war. She called her sleazy lawyer cousin Frank, who once lost a case to a vending machine, and demanded he draft a cease and desist letter to Grandma. "She threatened me with a bat," Karen barked. Frank, who was in the middle of microwaving a corn dog, replied, "Did she actually hit you?" "No, but she tapped the floor very menacingly." "You want me to sue a veteran grandmother for dramatic floor tapping?" "Yes." Frank sighed, turned off the microwave, and muttered, "This is why I don't get invited to real cases." The letter arrived at Grandma's house the next day. She read it, chuckled, and filed it neatly under T for trash. Then she hosted a lemonade stand in her driveway run by the neighborhood kids Karen had once tried to fine $50 for unauthorized sidewalk vending. The turnout was huge. Kids, parents, dogs, and patriotic bandanas. One guy even brought a Bluetooth speaker and played the Rocky theme while Grandma handed out fresh cookies. And just when you thought it couldn't get any better, Channel 6 came back. Back by popular demand, the reporter said, aiming the mic toward Grandma, who wore aviator sunglasses and a t-shirt that said, "Come and take it." Karen with a bat icon. Karen, watching from her blinds across the street, lost it. She marched across the road, past the lemonade stand, past the bunting, past the inflatable eagle someone had set up, and screamed, "You people are violating multiple HOA rules. This event is unregistered." The crowd froze. Then Grandma stood. "Well now," she said, calm and cool, "let's have a vote." She raised a hand. All in favor of keeping the lemonade stand and booting Karen out of HOA leadership? Hands went up like popcorn at a 4th of July parade. Karen's jaw dropped. "You can't do that. I am the HOA." "Not anymore," came a voice from the back. It was Margaret, the HOA secretary. She stepped forward, holding a clipboard. "We had a meeting this morning. You've officially been voted out. 38 to 1. Karen turned red. And who was the one? Margaret looked at the clipboard. You. But your vote was invalid. You're suspended pending felony charges. The crowd broke into applause. Karen turned, muttering threats, tripping over a sprinkler, and stormed off, soaking wet and thoroughly humiliated. Grandma took a sip of her lemonade. Tastes like justice. 3 days after the neighborhood publicly exiled Karen from the HOA, things got real quiet around her house. No shouting, no threatening notes taped to people's doors, no late-night flashlights inspecting people's fences. Just the eerie silence of a tyrant dethroned. But for Grandma, the party was just getting started. She had a special package to deliver, one she'd been working on long before Karen ever stepped foot in her garage. You see, this wasn't the first time Karen had played dirty. Over the past 2 years, Karen had fined, bullied, and extorted multiple residents using fake HOA rules, threats of lawsuits, and straight-up lies. Some elderly neighbors had paid thousands in violations that didn't even exist. What Karen didn't know, Grandma had been keeping receipts. Literal ones. Spreadsheets, emails, voice recordings, security footage, photos, even a screen recording of Karen bragging in a private Facebook group called HOA Real Ones Only about how she could make anyone pay up with a clipboard and a scowl. Grandma compiled it all into a folder titled Operation Cupcake, Taking Down Karen. It was sent directly to the County District Attorney's Office, the State HOA Oversight Committee, Karen's employer, and Channel 6 News. By the time the sun set that Friday, Karen's phone was blowing up like a firecracker in a mailbox. The news anchor returned for a final segment, dramatically reading one of Karen's own emails where she demanded a resident remove their American flag because it was clashing with the neighborhood's beige color scheme. The DA's office opened an official investigation the following Monday. Karen was served with fraud, harassment, and impersonating a legal authority. Turns out, many of the fines she issued were completely fabricated, and the documents she used to threaten people forged. She wasn't just a power-tripping HOA president, she was a full-blown criminal with a cardigan. When the officers came knocking again, this time with a warrant, Karen tried to run. Unfortunately, she tripped over a gnome in her own flower bed and face-planted into her begonias. One officer muttered, "Poetic justice," as they cuffed her. Grandma watched it all unfold from her porch, sipping sweet tea, wearing a shirt that read, "Keep HOA. I got the tapes." The neighborhood erupted into celebration. Dave from Lot 17 brought out his grill. The kids painted Karen-free zone signs. And Grandma? She was crowned honorary neighborhood guardian, complete with a sash, a plaque, and her own dedicated park bench. But the final twist? Grandma revealed something only a few people knew. Her name? Judge Lucille Harris, retired Superior Court judge. Yep, Karen didn't just mess with a grandma. She broke into the garage of a woman who had sent mob bosses to prison and once personally wrote the legal opinion that shut down an illegal HOA racket in another state. As Grandma stood on her porch, looking out over the joyful chaos of a Karen-free neighborhood, she turned to me and said, "Some people fight back with fists. Me? I prefer cookies, cameras, and the law." Mic dropped,